Well, it was one of Europe's top destinations before the pandemic, and now Portugal is picking up where it left off. The country welcoming 2.8 million tourists in the first 3 months of the year. That figure even higher than the pre-pandemic quarterly record of 2.5 million tourists from the same period in 2019. You can see it there. But locals say that there is a dark side to the boom. Rents are rising dramatically, and it's becoming increasingly difficult for residents to make ends meet.
300,000 euros. This can't be.
Social harmony is something precious. Sunshine is abundant in Lisbon, but the hotels and Airbnbs are becoming more and more expensive. That's leading to existential fears for residents. Some live in conditions like these. Milita Tomas Fernandes is desperate. She fears for her little house. It's one of many illegal buildings on the outskirts of Lisbon. Januario Fernandes, an aid worker, looks after her. 2 years ago, bulldozers came and demolished some of the houses, while others remained standing. The city hall itself is not creating stable conditions. In these neighborhoods here, the neighbors are the ones helping each other. Most of the families here come from São Tomé and Príncipe, a former colony of Portugal. None of them can afford rents anymore, even though they work.
I used to rent a flat for 600 euros. Suddenly they raised it to 800 and I couldn't pay that, so I had to come here.
Georgina Simoes shows how overheated the real estate market is on her way home near a former social housing.
They're being sold for 300,000 euros back there in the last tower.
The 58-year-old nurse lives in a neighborhood off the train tracks, paying only 300 euros rent. But that's still a lot for her. She's terrified of a rent increase.
The rents are simply too high when you earn a minimum wage of 760 euros. It's very difficult. I have a second job, so I can afford a car. I need that to get from home to work. I work 13 hours a day for that.
The divide between the rich and poor is stark. Here, new flats are available from 400,000 euros upwards. Social harmony is something precious. If we lose that, we will also lose part of the investments. So this harmony has a price. Now the government aims to introduce a special program where no more flats would be rented out to the tourists and vacant flats would be forcibly rented out. The mayor of the city of Oeiras does not think much of it. We need public housing construction projects for this. If we have to expropriate them. And more importantly, we need to take land out of the National Agricultural Reserve and use it. If we don't create public housing, we won't solve this problem. Without a solution, these illegal neighborhoods are also likely to continue growing while property prices continue to rise for everyone.
All right, Mario Carvalho Fernandes is Chief Investment Officer at Portugal's Banco Caragosa. Mario, thanks for joining us. Tourism represents a growing part of Portugal's economy. Can we say to what extent is it responsible for rising real estate prices in major cities like Lisbon?
Hi, thank you for having me. In fact, the rising price in the Lisbon city, I think, has two sides. One is from the supply side of residential homes, and the other one is the demand side. The fact that in the last 2 decades there is little new construction in Portugal due to the debt crisis that we have in the past contributes also to these rising price levels. After the debt crisis, there were many initiatives to bring investors to Portugal again with fiscal incentives that increased demand for every kind of real estate, and this imbalance give rise the price level for everyone. So the cause, I think, is more broader than only the tourism demand, also, but the tourism is one of the factors.
Which side is easier for governments to solve? The supply side that is building more, or the demand side rather, that is, I guess, sort of scaling back on tourist arrivals or apartments available for tourists?
I think government is trying to agilize some of the levers on the demand side, trying to control the apartments that are available for rent to tourists. But there are also initiatives that need to be increased by creating and construction of new residential homes, because that takes time. The faster way is try to control demand, but as we see it, the demand side is very strong and will not contain only by controlling tourism. We have a lot of increased demand from migrants also, and people that choose Portugal to spend their golden years after retiring. So these are other fields where the initiatives towards tourism will not be enough.
At the same time, we also see that borrowing is getting much more expensive in Europe as interest rates rise. Could that not also help undermine a little bit of this demand, as perhaps there are fewer purchases?
Yes, in fact, most of the Portuguese families buy a home using debt, and most of this debt has been created using floating rates. So they are facing this financial stress that are now in place, need to pay more for the mortgage than they did last year, for instance. And that can be an issue, reducing demand, but from the domestic side. I think the people that came from abroad and are looking for houses in Portugal, most of them are buying with equity, with no use of debt, and that demand will be more resilient than the domestic demand.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Mario Carvalho Fernandes with Portugal's Banco Caragosa. Thank you very much.
Thank you.